Please stand by. We're about to begin. Good day and welcome to the UFC 203 conference call. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, I'd like to turn the conference over to Mr. Dave Lockett. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is Dave Lockett, Director of Public Relations with the UFC. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's UFC 203 conference call. Former pro wrestling superstar CM Punk will make his UFC debut on the main card of UFC 203, H.E.A.T versus Overeem, Saturday, September 10th at Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland. Punk's going to face up-and-coming welterweight Mickey Gall, who won his UFC debut earlier this year. We are pleased to have participating on the call with us today UFC welterweight contender CM Punk and UFC welterweight contender Mickey Gall. Now I'd like to turn things over to the call center to open things up for questions.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, please signal by pressing star 1 on your telephone keypad. If you're using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Again, please press star 1 at this time. And we'll take our first question from Mark Raimondi from SB Nation.
Start with Mickey. Mickey, CM is a guy that has a lot of experience, not necessarily in fighting, but performing in front of huge crowds, stadiums, 70,000, 80,000 people. He doesn't let that kind of thing get to him. You're still a pretty young guy in the sport. You don't have that experience fighting in front of big crowds, fighting in front of a lot of eyes. How do you kind of go into this fight? What's your mindset? How do you kind of combat that?
It's the same as any other fight. While he does have the experience in fighting in front of large groups of people, I've been fighting he's been, performing in front of large groups of people. I've been fighting in front of large groups of people. Not these numbers, but, it's the same. I've had fights where I've had over 100, friends and family members at the fight. I think that's more nerve-wracking than just random people. And, it's just a different thing. It's not performing. It's a real fight. We're going to be, standing across each other and within the rule set trying to kill each other. It's a different thing, something that I believe I have more experience in.
Have you been watching the reality show on FS1? Have you been checking that out at all?
Yeah, I have been.
What do you think of it?
It's a cool show. Rory does a good job. It's cool, man. Punk and his wife seem like likable people. I'm not particularly impressed. Just different things. The way he moves. I'm sure he's improved tremendously since most of that footage. But I know when he gets to in the fight, we get into the shit. I think those bad habits are gonna come out, and I know I'll be able to expose those.
Cool, thanks, man. And just for CM, I know this is you haven't actually fought yet, but you've gone through the training now for almost 2 years. Is there anything that you've experienced that surprised you at all, that you didn't know about, anything like that?
No, I knew what I was getting into. As much as people want to say that I didn't, I did, and nothing surprised me. I think the level of competition in my gym would be surprising to most people, but it wasn't eye-opening to me or anything like that. I wanted to do this at the highest level with the best gym in the world against the hardest guys, because it's about proving something inside the octagon.
I know that you probably wisely stayed away from social media lately, but there's been some criticism. There have been videos out there of the show and of you sparring and stuff like that, and there's been a lot of criticism of that. Do you think that what we've seen so far in some of those videos is actually a correct depiction of where you're at now as a fighter?
It is a correct depiction of where I was at when it was shot, pre back surgery, walking around with a herniated disc, 15% power in my left leg. It'd be like me watching one of Mickey's fights and expecting to fight that guy. Mickey trains his ass off, and he trains with a good team. he's not going to be the same guy he was in his last fight, just like I'm not going to be the same guy you saw on a television show.
So you think that the criticisms are a little bit unfair or maybe even premature?
I wouldn't say it's unfair, life's unfair, but you can't listen to what somebody on the internet is saying about you, I mean, you dig hard enough, you'll find negative stuff about everybody, and I'm a positive guy. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm going to be good at, and what I did a year and a half ago doesn't matter to me.
Gotcha. Guys, thanks so much. Good luck next week.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, it is *1 if you would like to ask a question. *1 to ask a question. We will now go to Scott Harris with Bleacher Report.
Yeah, thanks. Kind of a follow-up for Punk. You just said you knew what you were good at and what you were not so good at. Can you break that down a little bit more? I mean, I don't want to ask you to give anything away, but, as you went into training, was there anything that you sort of took to that maybe you didn't think you were, or, something that you found yourself having a particular aptitude for?
I think my aptitude and what I was really good at is just absorbing everything. I got three head coaches pretty much. We got a revolving group of people who have been helping me with wrestling, and on top of that, I train with killers and champions, current champions and former champions. So it is a lot to take in. But I was a sponge, and I am a sponge, and I just, to me, that's what it's all about. I've said it ad nauseum. It's about the journey. You know what I mean? It's about finding out about different disciplines and learning from everybody from all walks of life. But my mindset, I think, is probably my biggest tool.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And we'll move on to Dave and Martin with Fox Sports.
Thanks, guys. Quick question for Punk. Punk, one aspect of the fight that hasn't been talked about a lot that I'm curious about is your weight cut. Obviously, as a professional wrestler, you weren't, expected to be in a certain way. You want to be in good shape. But how is that going, getting down to 170?
It's terrible. I'm like above 200 pounds right now, and it's not looking good.
Can I say that's fine by me? Punk, you're totally welcome to come in heavy, man. I'd love a little bit of whatever you're making.
Yeah, I know. It would be the most money you've ever made in your entire life, and if you think I'm giving you any of my purse, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, I take it.
I am curious, Punk. You came into the UFC obviously being billed as a former WWE superstar. But I know you're not, maybe the biggest fan of WWE or professional wrestling these days. I mean, how do you think do you care how people from that world are reacting to this fight? Will they be watching? I mean, does any of that matter to you, considering, that's kind of how your star power was brought into being in the UFC?
No, it doesn't matter to me, and I say that, and it's not like I'm negating anybody's, opinion or trying to hurt anybody's feelings. It's just, there's people who want to see me win. There's people who want to see me fail, and like I've said, you kind of got to middle road it. You can't get too far up your own ass, believe in all the positive stuff that people say and you read about yourself, that conversely, you can't believe all the negative stuff, and the people who want to see me lose, if I could take a page out of my old job, it doesn't really matter if they're booing or cheering, as long as they're really loud. They're invested in the fight. I think that's all both of us really care about.
Yeah. When you signed the contract at the end of 2014, immediately everyone's asking you questions. How are you in this? Are you in this for the long haul? Is this a one fight, bucket list? What is it? Now you're sitting literally a week away. I mean, how are you feeling now that you've actually had 2 years of training and here you are getting into your first fight? I mean, are you looking at this as, this is the first of many? I mean, how has your approach changed, your mindset changed as you go, a week away from your first fight versus all these same questions 2 years ago?
My mindset hasn't changed at all. The sun comes up, it's a good day. And I train and I work towards the goal. I don't think past this fight, I'm not looking, at who number 2 is going to be. I'm just focused on this one. But to say this is a one and done, I think that's premature. But I'm also old and wise enough to know that, you never say never. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but yeah, I'm for sure in this for the long haul. I mean, I got a decent sized number of fights on my contract, and I'm looking to fulfill it, and I'm looking to have fun doing it.
Yeah, and last question for you, Punk. Famously, a lot of fighters are asked about predictions for a fight. I know Mickey has made his prediction for the fight, so I'll kind of ask you to put on your Conor McGregor hat for a second. How do you see this fight playing out? If you were to make a prediction, how do you feel this fight will go for you?
Well, I see my hand getting raised, and I'm not really one for making predictions, and I'm not sure if Conor's hat would fit my head. I don't know if he's got a large head or a small one, but I'm not trying to wear Conor's hat. I'm not trying to wear anybody else's hat. I'm just trying to be me, do my thing. I definitely see myself winning. And if I had to pick, I'd say TKO.
Awesome. Thanks, Punk. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will now go to Alice Lee with The Score.
Hi. My first question is for Mickey.
Yep.
Hey, Mickey, I want to know, are you signed to a standard multi-fight contract with the UFC? Because I'm thinking, like, win or lose on Saturday, is there any talk of you maybe going back down to the regional scene for more seasoning, or do you trust that the matchmakers will keep finding fighters of equal experience to accommodate your development?
My contract is longer than just this fight. I never want to go back to the regional scene. I'm in the UFC now, and I'm here to stay. I want to fight the best in the world. I don't, that it's where I belong, and I want war with the best guys in the world.
Okay, thanks, Mickey. And for Punk, actually, I know everyone's asking a lot of questions about the documentary, but one major aspect of it is the involvement of your wife. Obviously, she's a celebrity in her own right. She's featured quite prominently. Was this a choice of yours and hers, or was it obviously just she's part of your life, so she was going to be in it? And did she have the option to not be involved in the documentary?
Oh, sure. I mean, she's the boss. She's got the option to do or not do whatever she wants, but it was, I think we both felt like it was important to show, you can only watch so much footage of training and stuff like that. After a while, it gets a little tedious no matter who you are. The main thing I would like to talk about is my dog, because I think he's pretty much the star of the whole show.
Was that your request to make sure they featured Larry, or was that something that just happened organically?
No, it was just it was an open book. It was let's shoot this, and I said no to some things, and some things were more annoying than others, but it was agreed upon to be an open book and just show what life's like doing this and the whole transition.
What kind of things did you not want them to shoot?
Just a couple of family things, like trying to get everybody together. My sister just had a baby, so it was just like, no need to put the infant on television and stuff like that. But nothing too big. We gave him access on Christmas, which was a little annoying, but that's life. I think we got some good footage out of it.
Okay. Thanks. Good luck to you both.
Thank you, sir. Luck's for losers.
And again, as a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, it is *1 if you would like to ask a question. *1. And we'll move on to Ted Gruber with Red Eye Chicago.
Hey, Punk, how are you?
I'm lovely. Ted, how are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask you about working with Duke Roufus and starting your training there, and that was your pick of going to Milwaukee and beginning your MMA career there. Can you just talk about a little bit about Duke and what he meant to you and getting your MMA training together?
Well, Duke's head coach at Roufus Sport. In my opinion, best MMA gym, possibly in the world. But then again, I'm supposed to say that, but I don't have to talk it up. The track record of fighters that train there and have come out of there pretty much speaks for itself. Duke was an amazing kickboxer in his time, lifelong martial artist, and his knowledge of the sport and his knowledge of Muay Thai and, boxing and everything, it really made it a no-brainer. On top of that, we're friendly with each other. And I really think it probably would have been the place to go even if I didn't know Duke prior to all of this happening. It's just the best environment. I'm a Midwest guy. So I don't know if I really could train anywhere else. You know, it's either hot or cold, and we're in the dungeon every day training our asses off. I really have it no other way. I'm glad there's not like a nice topless beach anywhere near me that I can be tempted to go to.
Thanks. And a quick question for Mickey. Mickey, I just want to get your thoughts on the build-up for the fight. Obviously, there is always build-up in any fight, but do you think there's enough build-up there, enough back and forth between you guys, or is it kind of just get in there and get it done?
Bottom line is we're gonna fight, and but yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people are very excited for this. Everything I'm seeing, it seems fun. We're not gonna put on and hate each other. It's I think there is an appropriate amount of build up. I think people are excited, and I know we both are. So
thanks.
Yes, sir.
And we will now go to Eric Kowal with MyMMAnews.com.
Hey, Mickey, how are you?
What's up, Eric?
Hey, my question was kind of asked in a different way, so I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit. I've been following you on the regional scene in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Obviously you're brought in for the CM Punk fight, but even with a win, you're going to be 3-0. So has the UFC talked to you about what they're going to do, what their plan is? Are they going to continue to bring fighters in for you to build you up, or do you go against a guy who's got 10 fights in the UFC next?
That's what I want. I want the UFC killers next. I don't want guys to be brought in on my account. I want to fight the best in the world. I think the UFC has the best in the world. Big names make nice trophies, and I want a bunch of trophies.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Again, it is *1 if you would like to ask a question. *1. And we will move on to Josh Nixon with WrestlingObserver.com.
Hey, everyone. Started with Punk, a question about your past with promos. And obviously, that's a big part of your past. And then everyone's talked about certain promos you've done and so on. We haven't seen that kind of what I think a lot of people assume is a classic pro wrestling promo going into this. Is that part of your past and kind of your brain you've completely shut off in this transition, this new career? Has there been temptations to do that? Kind of take me through that.
I don't see the need for it. People either love me or hate me already. I'm not trying to talk anybody into the building on this one. I think the allure is just the fact that it's happening. You know what I mean? And the story writes itself. So it's not a fabricated thing where I need to kind of, create some drama between me and Mickey. We're going to fight. That's the beauty of it. It doesn't need to be a weird verbal pissing contest. I think some of these guys, while it is entertainment and it's the shit talk business, I don't see it. I don't see it happening this time.
Gotcha. And for your corner for the fight, are you finalized on who's going to be in your corner?
Yeah. It's going to be Duke, Scott Cushman, and Daniel Wanderlei.
Got it. Okay. And I was
gonna try to get a fourth, but they didn't want Bret Hart in my corner.
Oh, gotcha. Fair enough. With Mickey, or for Mickey rather, you fought for the first time in the Octagon in February, and you often hear a lot about Octagon jitters and just made people assume what it's going to be like that first fight week, going into all the prep, all the gear, all that type of stuff. Is there advice that you can give for Punk for what he may not be expecting going into his first UFC fight week?
Nah, man, I don't have any advice. I really enjoyed the whole fight week thing. I think it's fun. I think you'll enjoy. It's fun that just talking right now that people want to talk about the shit that we love to do. But fight week's nice, and that was the best. My last fight was the best I ever felt in a fight, and it brought me a lot of confidence. I plan on carrying that into this fight.
Very good. Thank you both.
Thank you.
We'll now take our next question from Steve Feidel with Asbury Park Press.
Hey, my first question is for Mickey. Mickey, I was speaking with Jim Miller prior to his fight last week, and he mentioned that he had been working out with you on and off since you were in your mid-teens. What inspired you to get in this game so early on?
Actually, I was thinking before I ever started. I like growing up, I played all the sports. I was like, football, baseball, basketball, all that stuff. I boxed a little bit, like on the weekend and stuff. I was captain my football team in high school, but once I like really learned about like MMA and became a fan of the UFC, I was like, oh man, I can do this. This is the ultimate sport. Everything else we're tossing a ball around, and it's like simulated war. But this is the real shit. This is the real deal. And I knew I'd be good at it. I knew I'd take to it. And, I started doing jiu-jitsu, and I was actually fans of Jim and Dan Miller. It was cool. I'd be like, yo, check out these tough, Jersey guys who go in and scrap. And then a couple years later, I started training with them. Great guys.
The scene here in Jersey is fairly competitive, and there's been a lot of guys that have had success in the UFC that have come out of New Jersey, both North and South Jersey. We got Frankie Edgar down here near Asbury Park, but obviously the Millers up there. What has it been like coming up through that scene?
It's been great, man. There's always training partners, always tough guys around, and when big fights are happening, the excitement, you can't help but get like motivated by that. It's great. I'm always asked about why I think there's tough guys from Jersey. I think just everyone thinks they can fight, so you end up, you find yourself in a couple. But I don't know, man. There's a lot of great guys all around. You got Catones, Gracie, New Jersey, Miller Brothers, American Top Team in Pennsylvania. A lot of tough guys.
Sure. Moving on to Punk. You heard Mickey say a little bit earlier in this call that, he doesn't have any plans on going back to the regional circuit. He's made it to the UFC. Are you able to put yourself in the same place that you were in back when you made it from the Indies to WWE and remember that mindset? And does that give you any insight into how driven your opponent may be when you face him a week from Saturday?
Well, it's a little bit of apples and oranges comparing the two. I was 26 and always told that I'd never make it, and then you make it, and then it's just like it's harder to stay there than it is to make it, And with this, it's you get in there and you got to win, and it's nobody else's decision, Nobody's gonna take something that you work for away from you, because you wear the wrong pair of shoes on a flight or some wacky bully bullshit like that. This is the competition, so. It's a little bit different in that respect, but I'd imagine the hunger is absolutely the same. You want to prove yourself right. You want to prove the naysayers wrong. You want to show that you belong there, and on top of that, you're doing something that you love to do and something that you work very hard at on a daily basis. So there's somebody else trying to take that away from you, and your job is to not let that happen.
Great. Thank you both for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And again, it is *1 if you would like to ask a question. And we'll move on to Jordan Hornberger with 104.9 The Horn.
Hey guys. First for Punk. Punk, you've obviously been on some large stages. You've been at a bunch of UFC fights, but at UFC 185, you were able to be in the corner of Anthony Pettis and in the back for Sergio Spice. Now, that wasn't the best of nights for your team, but what are some things that you learned from that fight and being there back and with Anthony and Sergio that night?
I learned I had to drink my coffee in the hallway because it wasn't allowed in the locker room. But there's you just see how things unfold that entire week. I was there the whole week, so it wasn't anything eye opening, and it wasn't anything that was like a first learning experience for me. It was just more getting acclimated to being around the team and seeing how relaxed everything was and seeing what fight week was like, and just like how almost you're supposed to have fun on fight week. You're supposed to just chill out, relax, tune some things up, but more importantly, it's about being around your coach and your team and enjoying it, because as a fighter, chances are you probably don't get to enjoy a lot of stuff when you're going in and out of the gym 3-4 times a day. So fight week's time to kind of enjoy the whole process.
you've been with that team through some highs, through some lows. Any advice that you've received from kind of fighters like Anthony Pettis that he's given you as you get ready to prepare for your first fight?
He leads by example. You know, he's a guy who he lost 3 hard fights in a row. And, you know, with anybody else, you know, you'd probably speculate that he was going to get cut maybe if he lost his 4th one. But he went to a lower weight division, you know, and so that's ultimately a harder weight cut. And he fought the best jiu-jitsu guy in that weight division, you know. So that's just like, wow, that's really eye-opening. It's just like, you know, it sounds corny, but it's not about how many times you fall. It's about getting back up and persevering.
All right, thanks, Punk. Mickey, kind of similar question. This is obviously your second time fighting in the UFC. Anything that you've learned that's different from kind of you when you first made that walk that you're going to be doing differently this week from February?
No. Nothing really. I've matured over the past 6 months. I feel like I went into my last fight. I was a kid. I feel like it's forced me to grow up, and I'm really proud of what I did in the past 6 months. I've gotten better in every aspect. I think I beat the crap out of the version of myself that won in February. Now.
All right. Hey, thanks both of you guys.
You're welcome.
We'll now move on to Shamikar Sandhu with MMAJunkie.com.
Hi, guys. Question for CM Punk. Punk, leading up to UFC 202, Conor McGregor made some comments in regards to WWE guys. I just wanted to find out what your reaction was to his comments.
I don't care.
Okay, fair enough. Regardless of his comments, were you surprised by the reaction of the WWE community, especially the wrestlers?
It's a hard thing to comment on, you know, because the amount of people who responded to him made me feel like they were told to respond to him. You know, he's the biggest name in sports at the moment, you know. So, you know, there's always gray areas when you involve that whole scene, and you're wondering, is this a work? Is it not a work? A lot of feelings were hurt, though. I could tell you that much, which I thought was a little strange. You got to leave the emotion out of it. These guys still don't know.
Regardless of what happens next weekend, what is the one thing you hope anyone that tunes in on pay-per-view or is in the arena takes away from your fight and your performance?
Do what you want in life. You know, find something you love to do and do it for a living. Don't let people tell you can't do something. You know, like, life's too fucking short to not enjoy it, to not have fun every day, to not do what it is that you want.
And just one final question. Will you be walking out to the Cult of Personality?
You will have to find out when you purchase UFC 203 September 10th from Cleveland, Ohio. Live, only on pay-per-view.
All right. Thank you very much. Cheers.
You're welcome. Cheers. Mazel tov.
And we'll now go to Karen Bryant with MMA H.E.A.T.
Thanks very much. Hey, Punk. It's Karen. It's good to talk to you. I'm excited for this. But, you know, Mike, I got a couple questions for you. I know that you have been so close to this sport, and you have so many friends that are fighters, and I know that you want to achieve everything in your life that makes you happy, but did anybody at any point kind of pull you aside, have a heart-to-heart with you, and go, dude, like, do you really want to do this? Did anybody ever try to talk you out of it?
No.
That's great. That's amazing. What was the thing they told you about the most, though? Like, what did they say would be like the greatest challenge or the hardest thing to come to terms with?
Most of the high-level friends that I have in the sport all said the exact same thing, and unless they were all talking amongst themselves, I think it shows exactly how true this is. It's a mental game. You know, you could go to the gym, you could learn all the technique, you could be the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, and there's there's normally a couple of those guys at the gym that, for whatever reason, on fight night, they don't show up that same guy that they are in the gym. This is a lot of my friends told me that this is, it's mental, and that's the hardest part about it, is just the grind. I don't think it was ever questioned whether physically I could handle a training camp. I think mentally was the question, but now we all know.
Did you do anything like, a lot of coaches have their fighters do pre-visualization, that kind of thing? Do you think you'll make your ring walk, earlier in the day, like Cowboy's been doing lately? What do you think you're actually going to do on fight night to make sure you are in the right headspace?
Yeah, I'll probably do all that. You said visualization, and that's something my buddy Duncan Keith from the Blackhawks is a firm believer in. So we talk about that a lot. We exchange training tips and recovery tips, and that's one thing that he always goes back to. He's like, he's like really big believer in visualization. So, I try to take a little bit of time out of every day. Before I go into the gym, I'm sure I'll do it on fight night to kind of visualize and go through in my head where I see things going and, putting myself in bad positions and keeping calm and getting out of them and, marching forward to win the fight.
Awesome. And one last question. I know you're not doing this, for the naysayers. You're doing it for you, but for you personally, what's the ideal way for you to win? Would you like to go in there and get a fast knockout, or is there a party that really wants to prove something and win a Lou Don Miller type war?
Well, you said naysayers, and there's a lot of talk about, like, if I step foot in the octagon, I've already won. I'm doing something that a lot of people think that I couldn't do. At the end of the day, I don't want to walk in there and lose. I want to show out. I want to show up. I want to beat Mickey. I don't really give a shit how I do it. A win's a win. I'm not looking to impress one of my coaches more. I'm not looking to, knock him out. It's like an all-encompassing thing. And I think at the root, that's why I love MMA so much, because it's so many disciplines, so many different things. There's so many variables. Everything has to line up on that one perfect day, and I'm looking to do that on the 10th.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have a great fight, both of you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to Dave Meltzer with Wrestling Observer and MMA Fighting.
Punk, one of the things with you and everything is the age that you started. And when you look back, do you wish that you would have made the move, say, 5 years earlier, 6 years earlier, or do you just say, well, life's done and you can't undo type of thing?
It's an interesting question. I try not to lend credence to that, I'm old thing. You know what I mean? You're only as old as you feel. And I felt pretty old previous to my back surgery. After that, I really feel like a completely different person. A big part of me wasn't going to re-sign in 2011, and this is what I would have done. But who's to say whether I would have been, hot-shotted straight to the UFC? I probably would have started where Mickey started. But this was going to happen regardless of when and where. Maybe I started late, but I really kind of think that's somebody else's opinion. If MMA was around in the form that it's in when I was 14, 15, I definitely think I would have taken a different path, and there's a lot of guys in the pro wrestling industry that say that, and I ultimately didn't want to be one of those guys that just talked about it. I wanted to do it.
What year, if you could come up with a year, did you come in your mind and say, there's going to be a day that I am doing this no matter what anyone says?
Probably 2009.
So it's been a long thing. So since you started, going full-time training, what's been the biggest surprise or thing that you've learned? I know you've been a fan for years and years and years, but it's one thing to be a fan and it's something completely different to be in the gym, every day and training with top guys. Has there been any big surprises, or was everything kind of what you expected it to be?
No, it was exactly what I expected it to be. Hard days. Sometimes frustrating days, and then, peaks and valleys. I have good days, I have great days.
And from like a healing standpoint and everything, you mentioned that you had the back injury and now you feel great. I mean, there's always going to be little kinks here and there, but I mean, as far as does your body respond like after 2 years in the sense that you hurt less, and do your wrestling injuries hurt less, or is it just kind of like, well, it's, you have your good days and bad days?
No, no shit talk. I feel amazing, I think the not traveling goes a long way to support that. I think sleeping in your own bed, I think not dealing with people's bullshit goes a long way, not being so fixated and being punished for loving something and trying to make it better. Like my mind and my body, and I'm not really a spiritual guy, but even spiritually, like I'm in the zone right now. Everything is much better.
Now, I saw on the reality show, and I actually had heard that before, that you had moved from Chicago to Milwaukee. I mean, did that make everything a lot easier, the fact that you didn't have the long commute?
Yeah, absolutely. Less driving. A guy like me who would drive 6 hours every goddamn night, 90-minute drive doesn't seem like all that much of a problem until you're going to the gym and, you're getting put on your ass on a daily basis, and then you got to drive back. And then, living here, it made everything a lot easier.
And real quick also, how much dealings did you have with Joe Silva, or did you just not deal with him, through this whole journey?
No, I talk to Joe all the time. I think Joe is great. I think that's one of many big changes that are probably coming since the UFC got bought. I'm sad to see Joe go, but he's still there now, so let's enjoy him while we can.
Okay, cool. And I don't want to say good luck because I know what you're going to say next, but for both guys, I hope you have a great fight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now go to a follow-up question from Mark Raimondi with SB.
Hey, I just wanted to ask a couple more things to Punk. I think it was the first episode of the reality show, the documentary, that you said that you're doing this for you, but it's almost become also something that's been an inspiration to others. When did you start to realize that aspect of it?
I'm not really sure. But I see it every day. If I'm grocery shopping, somebody runs up to me and they say something positive, and I just think it's nice that people respond in that way. I'm doing something that ain't easy, and I think it's important that it inspires people.
And just last thing, there's a long history going back decades of pro wrestlers competing in legitimate shoot fights, and a long history of that. Do you have any knowledge of shooters, and where do you see yourself fitting into that whole hierarchy and that legacy?
Oh, I mean, I know everything there is to know about the history of professional wrestling and catch wrestling and all that stuff. I don't know where I fit into that. That's for history to decide. I can't say. I can't speak on that.
Any inspirations from that sect of pro wrestling for you?
Probably a better question for Josh Barnett, who's actually fighting this weekend. I don't know. Not really. I just, it's more. I just want to go in there and do well.
Got it. Thanks, man.
We'll now move on to Samuel Hoyle with Arizona State University.
Hi, I've got a question for Mickey. You said earlier in this, you want the UFC killers next. My question is win or lose this fight, and you do get this next fight, who would you want to go against?
I'm not sure. I'm still thinking. I want everybody, man. My goal is to be UFC champion. So whoever's in the way, I plan on moving up the rankings and getting that belt. I might have a name on the microphone for after. We'll see.
Okay, sounds good. And then also to Punk, after this fight, win or lose, who would you want?
You got to tune in to the pay-per-view live, only on pay-per-view, UFC 203, September 10th, live from Cleveland, Ohio.
Gotcha. Okay. And then one more question for you, Punk. You said you were weighing in at about 200. How do you see yourself losing near 30 pounds to weigh in at 170?
Amputation.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
You're welcome.
We'll now move on to Damon Martin with Fox Sports.
Quick question, quick follow-up to Punk. Before you signed with the UFC, I remember a couple years ago there was a rumor you were going to walk out with Chael Sonnen at his fight in Chicago. Now, it never actually happened, but I am kind of curious. Like, what is your relationship with Chael? Did he have any influence on you when you got in the sport? Like, do you still talk to him? It seemed like, I assume you guys were friends back then. I don't know if you still are, but it seemed like he was at least an influence back then.
Yeah, absolutely. We still talk. It normally consists of him trying to get me to do his podcast and me trying to explain to him that I can't do podcasts anymore. But yeah, we still talk.
Did he offer, any advice early on, or what kind of influence was he? Did he have any kind of influence on you in this decision to do this?
Yeah, he was one of the guys that told me that it's mental. He was like, you'll have no problem with the physical stuff. He's just like, just grind it out, believe in yourself, don't quit. It's mental.
And real quick, I remember asking you this, I think it was like March of 2015, like right after a few months after you had signed, you were kind of rooting for your friend Brock Lesnar to come back. Obviously, he did come back, taking, obviously, all the post-fight stuff away from him. But I am curious, did you ever talk to Brock again? Like, did he ever offer you any advice? I know you said that, you would gladly, welcome him back and, you'd be happy to talk to him. Did you talk to him again as you got ready for this debut?
I did on and off, but nothing really major to speak on. Just he offered advice. He pick my brain whenever you want, ask me questions, no matter how stupid or what.
Awesome, thanks, Punk.
You're welcome.
And we'll take our final question from Kendrick Johnson with RingTV.com.
Listen, my first question is for Mickey. What makes you want to fight CM? What was the reason for the call out? Was this like something you kind of drafted out and things are going according to plan to get on the big stage, or just something that just kind of like spontaneous?
It was nothing personal. I knew, I found out Dana White was going to be at my first fight, my debut, my pro debut, and I right as I got the call that he was going to be there, I was like, well, how do I make the most of it? Dana White's probably not going to be at my next 2, 3, 4, 5 fights. So I got to do something now. So I was like, well, that guy, CM Punk, he's 0-0 and just signed to the UFC. I'll be 1-0. That's a like record. That that could happen. I've seen a lot of guys like Sean, Shorty Rock Santella, Andy Main, guys who probably should be in the UFC now in their Shorty's in his 30s and still hasn't gotten his shot. So I knew I needed to take advantage of the situation.
And do you think about being on this big stage or something that will help the fact that you're talking to us and stuff already, and it's on like your
I can't hear what you said. Say it again.
Do you plan on using this experience into your career going out with you always talking to us and stuff, being on this big stage?
I don't know what the first part of what you're saying is. It's like kind of fuzzy.
You hear me now?
On a big stage. Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you plan on using this experience with like talking to us and dealing with the media obligations to get used to being on a big stage with this being so early in your career?
Yeah, I guess. I enjoy talking about it. Like I said before, it's cool that people want to talk to me about what I'd love to do. I'm on the main card now of the UFC in my third pro fight, my second UFC fight. It's not normal, but I was going to get here eventually. So I'm going to take advantage of all of it.
And my next two questions are for CM. What for this week, this whole process to be a success for you? Is it more than just win or loss? Is there anything in particular that you're looking for it to be a success for you, regardless of the result?
Well, I think success is defined by the individual. I've had a successful camp. I've had bumps in the road. To me, fighting in the octagon is a success. I think walking in there is a success. So I win 2-3 times that night. I win when I walk in there. I win when I win. And I win when I get to eat a pizza afterwards.
What will be your walkout song?
To find out what CM Punk's walkout song will be, you will have to purchase UFC 203 live on pay-per-view, emanating from lovely Cleveland, Ohio, September 10th.
Thanks, guys, and good luck. Look forward to watching y'all.
Thank you.
We will take another question from Jack Encarnacion with the Boston Herald.
Hi, this question is for CM Punk. When you were in the WWE, of course, your tagline was "Best in the World," and you were you exuded tremendous confidence in your promos, and it was really your calling card was your ability to exude such confidence. Can you tell us what it's like to kind of have to take a different tone as an MMA fighter and as a newcomer? Is it strange for you? Is it a different tone than you've been adopting your whole pro career?
No, I think it's actually pretty calming and relaxing. You know, carrying an entire company on your shoulders, for lack of a better description, you know, after a while, it sucks. You know what I mean? So with this is just more be relaxed, work. You know, focus on yourself. You know, I'm not worried about what everybody else is doing, and I'm not worried about, you know, pay-per-view numbers and buy rates and ratings and merchandise sales, and you know, I focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's myself.
Can you give us a sense of the difference in lifestyle between training for a fight? It's obviously been trying. You suffered injuries, and we've seen through the documentary that it's been tough, but really the difference between lifestyle and preparing for a fight and being on the road for WWE?
The biggest difference is not traveling. You know, I've had a couple of friends who are fighters ask me, you know, like, what's harder? Or, you know, a lot of people ask me what's harder. You can't really say in that aspect because, like I said, it's comparing apples to turnips. You know, I'm not traveling every day. I'm not in a different time zone every day. I'm not doing aggressive, you know, media tours every Monday morning and then having to perform at night and somehow in between there sneak in a workout and all on 3 hours of sleep. You know, that's a lifestyle. You know, this is vacation. This is wake up, you know, eat, go to the gym. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, you get to go home, you shake it off, you leave the bad behind you, you take a nap, you eat, you go back to the gym. You know, there's different things you can build on and focus on. Oh, you did something wrong in practice and somebody caught you in a choke, so you get to drill it and you get to work on it. And it's more singular focus. The WWE life, you know, there's guys who have kids and they're married. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I guess that's why the divorce rate's so high.
Last one for you, sir. And I apologize if you've already addressed this question. I came in a bit late, but we've heard Mickey Gall talk about how you don't appear to be athletic in some of the training footage we've seen in the documentary. Of course, you're just learning the sport, but he seems to be putting his finger on something central about you as opposed to something you can, you know, learn to overcome. What would you say to that assessment?
I've always been accused of not being athletic my entire life. You know, and I, you know, who's to say? I guess because I didn't play professional sports, I'm not an athlete. You know, and people will always look down on pro wrestling. You know, but you know, it's a motherfucker. You know, you got to be a tough son of a bitch to do it.
Thank you.
And that does conclude today's question and answer session. I'll now turn the call back over to Mr. Lockett for additional or closing remarks.
Fall asleep, Dave? I almost did.
Mr. Lockett, would you please check your mute function?
I'm still here.
You awake?
I am. You guys didn't bore me. No, it was exciting. But just a reminder about next week's schedule. UFC 203 Open workouts are set for next Wednesday, September 7th at noon at Gateway Plaza at Quicken Loans Arena. Our UFC 203 press conference will take place Thursday, September 8th at 1:30 p.m. at Quicken Loans Arena. And we will hold UFC 203 weigh-ins on Friday, September 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time at Quicken Loans Arena. The first bout for UFC 203 will take place at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday, September 10th. Again, I'd like to thank CM Punk and Mickey Gall for participating in today's conference call, and I'd like to wish everybody a happy Labor Day weekend. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude today's conference. We thank you for your participation.